Psalm 100 from the Paleo-Hebrew Scriptures. Make a loud noise. Shout for joy unto Yahweh the ever-living. Go to him before his face with a ringing cry of joy. Know him intimately and completely, for he, Yahweh the ever-living, is Elohim. He has fashioned us, working by labor to produce us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the small cattle of his pasturing. Go to him, and to his gate with confession, thanksgiving, praise, into his enclosure with hymns of celebration. Cast forth praise unto him, kneel and place a gift before him. Prosper his name. For Yahweh is beautiful, kind, upright, fair, and agreeable. His hasad, desire and mercy, zeal and kindness, endure unto time of long duration. For as far as the eye can see or perceive, to the edge of the horizon and beyond, and his faithfulness circles from age to age perpetually.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome. This is Carly with Ancient Paths Wellness. I'm excited to be back again, partnering with the Unexpected Cosmology for this month's Temple Restoration Talk. I always like to say our bodies were made to be bioenergetic temples for his glory. And in order to keep our temples clean, restored, so our light can really shine and we can come out of dis-ease and into shalom, we need each other. We need these heavenly tools, heavenly strategies. So today we're going to be talking about respiratory health. Last time we did a Q&A at the end, but I would just encourage everybody, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. That way I can answer the questions as we go, because I would love to end with a really beautiful breathing exercise that we can all do together. So let me make sure I'm checking in with the chat. Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? I was telling Noel before we got on that I'm trying a new mic, so just give me a thumbs up if you can hear everything pretty well. All right, so again, ask those questions as we go. Awesome. And I'll answer them as best as I can as we go through our talk. But today we're talking about respiratory health. And if you're paying attention, you are feeling that we are being attacked on every level. Our breath is being attacked. It's being stolen from us. Our ability to really draw in that ruach, that life-giving breath, and release back out our selah. And really, our heart's cry, that heart area of our body, is right over where our lungs is. And that's really what we're doing. We're calling out, we're crying out the Creator's name every time we take a breath. Psalm 150 is a literal psalm. It's telling us what's happening every time we breathe. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. So breath is literally our input and our output of life. It's what keeps our nefesh living, moving, breathing, active. It's the first thing that happens when a baby is born. It's the last thing that we give up before we pass on to the next realm of existence. So in a left-hand body language, in Eastern medicine, in the ancient way of understanding how our bodies work and heal, we talk about the different cycles of life. There's 7 cycles of life manifestation in our body. And that 7th cycle is the creator cycle. It is our input and output. On our diagrams that we study, it's actually on the top of the head, because we're receiving from the heavenly realm, we're receiving our breath, our life, and then we're pouring back out to our creator. It's how all life manifests. If we study the bioenergetics of creation, 2 forms of energy come together. The primary pathway, which is how all life is formed, is a 2 become 1 pathway. So think about that. It's electromagnetism. They come together and they create breath. So that primary pathway is what creates life. And again, understanding how we get that is through that 7th cycle. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on. But we see this same thing modeled in all of creation. We have our father and mother that come together and forms life. It starts at the umbilicus. It's that input output when we're in the womb. And that's what's happening in the bioenergetic realm. That's what's happening in the spiritual realm. We have received our genetic info from our parents, which makes up what we look like, of course, and so much more. But we also have received the code of creation, the information of all life, the Aleph through the Tav, the invisible force, the Messiah. And that is what gives us the animation of our bodies. And so that information has been put into us. We have the opportunity to open up, flow with that, and then to give that back to the creator. So partnering with this input and output is our job as we live in this realm of existence, to really be able to shine and live our life fully in shalom, right? It's more than just peace, it's wholeness, it's restoration, it's health. To put it simply, I heard a rodeo announcer say one time, your life is God's gift to you. What you do with your life is your gift to God. And so what does this have to do with respiratory health? We're going to talk about that because our ability to breathe is under attack. If you're paying attention again, you'll understand that we are on attack at every level. It is an invisible war. And our ability to be able to breathe and take deep breaths it must be pretty important if they are trying to steal our breath and our ability to breathe deep. There are a lot of respiratory illnesses running rampant right now. And so after we pray and dig in, I'm going to start off with some emergency applications, because if you're watching this and you are in dire straits when it comes to a respiratory illness, or if you've been suffering from something chronically, I want to give you some tips and strategies to try to help you stay out of the system as much as possible, and use these tools that the Creator's given us to heal and restore. So we're going to talk about that first, but after that, we're going to focus on the 3 levels of health, because I say this all the time to my clients and in my practice. If you are just focusing on the physical, you're not going to get very far. You'll see some results, but what we're seeing is the tip of the iceberg when we're looking at physical symptoms. And I got this from Dr. Ben Edwards, so I want to give credit where credit is due. But the tip of the iceberg is physical. Emotions and spiritual health are underneath all of that, with the foundation being spiritual health. So as we talk today, and in every one of these temple restoration talks, we're going to talk about those 3 levels: the physical, emotional, and spiritual. But again, we're going to start with emergency applications here in a minute. So that way, if you're watching this and you just really need help now, you can watch those emergency applications, and that can help you if you're dealing with something major respiratory wise. So, all right, I'm going to pray before we really jump into this topic, and then we'll start. Oh, Father, yeah, we're so thankful for today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you that you're giving us strategies from the heavenly realm. You're returning us to the ancient path so that we can really heal and come out of this system that's keeping us sick. And Father, I just pray that, as I always do, that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart would be pleasing and acceptable before your face. And I pray this in the name of your Son, the Messiah, Yahusha, the Aleph to the Tav. Amen. I love that. That's the Paleo translation. Be acceptable before your face. I love that, because his face is everywhere. It's in all of creation. We see his invisible attributes everywhere. And the Aleph Tav is the building blocks of creation. So I'm going to jump into emergency applications, and then I'll start looking at some of the questions in the chat. So if you are dealing with something, and there's a lot of people I see on the different groups I'm on social media. What do? I think my son has pertussis, or I think whooping cough is going around. It's all a bioweapon, guys. They can give it whatever name they want diagnosis-wise, but we know it's an attack on our nefesh, on our ability to be able to live and move and have our being in our Messiah. So these emergency applications, again, I am not a doctor. I'm not here to give medical advice. You have to say that in the world we live in nowadays, but this is all just for your information only. So there's that. But the goal is to help keep you out of the pharmakia system, if at all possible. There's no judgment in that if that's something that you need. But again, I think the Father is really trying to take us back to these ancient ways, to the wisdom that he's given us from the beginning to fight these battles. So last year, just a quick story, I had caught a really horrible respiratory thing, bioweapon that was going around. We had traveled to see family, and I had gotten really, really sick. And I was doing all the things But it was a major attack on my lungs. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I could not breathe. I mean, it felt like my lungs were being squeezed. And I know a lot of people have dealt with symptoms like this here recently. And so I woke up my husband. I'm like, get my book. So he went and got my Aleph Tav body book. And within a few minutes of doing these Aleph Tav points, my lungs were able to open up. I was able to take a deep breath. Now compare that to if we didn't have this, a lot of times the only option is to go in to the emergency room to have drugs to help you open up your breath. And there's a lot of people that have asthma now, and they need their inhalers, their nebulizers, whatever. So these points can really help if you are having a hard time breathing. So I want to show you the first one is this is for an asthma attack. But again, if you're having any type of respiratory virus where you can't breathe, you can't catch your breath, remember these points, okay? So you're going to touch your left hand on your T3. So if you look at your thoracic vertebrae, it's kind of this bony protrusion where your neck ends and your spine begins. You want to go 3 vertebrae down from there. That's your T3. And then with your right hand, you want to, if you're doing this on someone else, you want to grab their middle fingers, okay? So think T3, third finger, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's the third if you go from either side. You want to grab and encircle both middle fingers with your hands if you're working on someone else, okay? With your right hand, with your left hand, you're going to touch their T3. So think about it. Breathe, tree, leaves, T3, third finger, okay? I love little acronyms and things like that to help me remember, because a lot of times if you're in an emergency situation, you don't have time to go looking for it. So T3, think leaves, breathe, tree, T3, and then encircle the third finger, the middle finger. If you're by yourself, you can still touch your T3. And then what you can do is you can encircle, let me get that on camera, your middle finger, okay? Pad to pad, or you touch the tip of your fingernail, okay? And so you can do that until you find relief. I always tell people do it for at least 5 minutes, up to 20 minutes, and take a break, and you can do it again if needed. But usually within the first few minutes, the lungs will open up and you will be able to breathe. Okay, so that's for an asthma attack. So remember T3, third finger, leaves, breathe, 3. Okay. The next one is for a panic attack. Now, when I was going on with a lung issue that I had last year, and again, it was in the middle of the night, I think the one that my husband did was for panic attack. I don't even think he did the asthma attack one. Both work really well. So for the panic attack one, another point to remember, because pan is what comes on us when we can't catch our breath. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later with emotional health and breathing. But for the panic attack, you want to take your left hand, and this time you want to go down to your T5. So again, start at that bony protrusion where your neck and your spine start, and you want to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have to reach back a little bit further. And then with your right hand, you want to touch the sternum. Okay, so you're almost kind of you want to actually go about 2 inches above the nipple line and then right in the center. So kind of where my little gemstone is here. Okay, if you're working on yourself or someone else, you're going to go before and behind. This is how I remember this one. If you're in a panic, okay, do not be afraid. Yahuwah, your Elohim, goes before you and behind you. Okay, before you and behind you. So remember, if you're in a panic or if someone is in a panic, they can't breathe, he goes before and behind you. Okay, so right in the center of the sternum here, and then your T5 area. Okay, those are wonderful helps if you are in an emergency situation. Again, call 911 if you need to. I'm not telling you you can't do those things. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just sharing information. So those are wonderful points to know and to memorize. Another thing that really helped me, and that's helping a lot of people when I went through this last year, was nebulizing. If you don't have a nebulizer, get a nebulizer. And there is a recipe. I will post it in the comments. I found it on Dr. Mercola's website where you can nebulize hydrogen peroxide and iodine. Now, you have to follow the recipe because you need to make a saline solution first out of salt water. And then you add in food grade hydrogen peroxide. Don't get the stuff you get at the dollar store. You want to get food grade and a good brand of iodine. And all that's in the article that I will post. But that really helped me turn a corner last year when I was dealing with this respiratory illness. I nebulized every few hours until I got better. And that really finally helped clear out my lungs. And iodine is a wonderful mineral, trace mineral that we need. It's Most of us are deficient in it. And so a lot of times just getting that into your body really helps make a difference, but it's also very anti-parasitic. And a lot of these weaponized pathogens and bioweapons that we're dealing with are parasitic in nature. I'm not saying they're 100% pure parasites because I believe they are created in a lab, but they have a parasitic element to it. So that iodine helps with that, helps that get into the lungs. So nebulizing, using that recipe that I'll post in the comments makes a huge difference. If you don't have a nebulizer and you just need some help right away, what you can do is you can boil some water, some good, clean, filtered water in a pot, and then add some essential oils. Cypress oil is wonderful for lungs. Hyssop is also wonderful. Eucalyptus, tea tree, peppermint, wintergreen, any of those oils. Just add a few drops to that steaming water. And again, do this safely. Put it somewhere where you're not going to worry about burning yourself, but you can lean over it and even put a towel over you to really just breathe in the vapors of those essential oils. Getting that into the lungs can help as well. And a lot of those oils, especially tea tree, are anti-parasitic too. You can also rub essential oils directly on your chest if you or your loved one or even your child is having some respiratory issues, dealing with a respiratory illness. You want to take a good carrier oil like coconut oil and add a few drops of any of those oils I just mentioned: cypress, hyssop, eucalyptus, tea tree, peppermint, wintergreen. Again, just a few drops is all you need, and then rub that all over their lungs and chest. I will also post a video. My dear friend Nitsa Moshe, she's an old school oiler, and she's been in this health game for a long time. And she talks about how, before essential oils became popular and all these MLMs took them on, in Europe especially, people would go to an oil practitioner when they were ill, and they would cover them with oils. A lot of times we just put like a drop of oil on and we're like, oh, I'm good. No, you slather that all over your body. They would go to an oiler, they would get their treatment. And most of the time it was top of the head to soles of the feet with a carrier oil and then that essential oil massaged in. Interestingly enough, she said the word Mashiach is the base word where we get the word massage, because Mashiach is the anointed or oily one. And what do you use when you get a massage? You use oils. You're massaging the oils into the body. So don't be sparing with the oils if you're dealing with a respiratory issue. Again, always, put the first dose on, see how you're feeling, wait a few hours and go again. The leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. And so there are a lot of herbs that are wonderful for respiratory health. I know Dawn makes a respiratory health tea that's in the Unexpected Cosmology store. You can check that out. That's a wonderful one to make, whether you drink it or you put it in that boiling water and just breathe in the herbs. That gets into the system as well. But lobila is a great one. I have my lobila here that's great for lung and respiratory health. If you're dealing with something acute, you can take this often. Mullein herb is wonderful as well. It grows wild all around here, but you can buy that in capsules as well. And there is a Chinese herb, a combination of Chinese herbs that I love that I've used over the years called platycodon and pei min. Platycodon is balloon flower, so it specifically correlates to the lungs. Make sure you're not getting your Chinese herbs on Amazon, because most of the time you're just getting snake oil. You want to get it from someone who is a holistic practitioner. You can contact me if you're wanting to purchase Chinese herbs. I usually have some in the apothecary, or I can point you in the right direction of where to get some of these herbs. Elderberry and garlic is wonderful. Good elderberry syrup. Taking a whole pot of garlic every few hours is a wonderful antiviral, antibacterial, and you can do that as well. But when you are feeling ill or fighting something, it's important that you rest. You get lots of detox baths in. A lot of prayer. Speak life over yourself. Speak the word of our King over yourself. And also limit your dairy if you're dealing with respiratory issues, because dairy, and I'm a big fan of raw milk, but dairy does stick to your mucous membranes and it causes more inflammation. So it is helpful to go off of dairy for a good chunk of time if you're dealing with a respiratory issue. And lastly, if you're dealing with something that's been chronic in your body for a while, especially people that are suffering from like pulmonary edema or any kind of scar tissue or damage, there is a wonderful oil combination that has castor oil, comfrey, and cayenne. And my friend at Maker's Mark Herbals makes that. I can post a link for that as well. But people were seeing great healing with pulmonary edema and pulmonary scar tissue from issues they've had in the past by slathering that on their lung area every evening. It's very sticky because it's castor oil based, but if you're dealing with something like that, it is worth it. So that's my emergency applications if you're needing help right away. And let me just take a quick look in the comments to see if there's any questions. Can asthma be a physical response to the emotional or spiritual as well? Yes, absolutely. That's a great question, Noel. And we're going to talk about that as we go on. But oftentimes, what we're experiencing emotionally, or even in the spirit, our body will manifest. And so often we think it's a physical trigger, but a lot of the time it is emotional and spiritual. So yeah, fasting and deep breathing, we're going to talk about that. And, the body is a self-healing organism. So I just want to say this. Whatever diagnosis you've been given or a family member has been given, always look to what the word of Yah says first. And all of our organs regenerate. They have the ability to regenerate. I mean, within sometimes 30 days, the cells of an entire organ can regenerate. So there is nothing that can't be healed. The problem is we are living in times when there is such an onslaught on our bodies. I mean, I did an interview with Dr. Monzo where we talked about how the methylation genes are being shut off. The things that they're spraying, the things that are putting in the food is actually shutting off our body's ability to detox. So think about that. So normally, a healthy person that's made in the image of our creator can just detox anything that comes at us. But because those methylation genes are being shut off, we're having a harder time. So there are a lot of strategies. There are a lot of things out there that the Father is showing us to help. But my thing is just hold on to hope, whatever the diagnosis is, even if it is a birth defect, there's things that can be done to help heal that. And we've seen it many times. I will post the nebulizer that I have at Be Mary 94. Most of them are plastic, unfortunately, but yeah, the one I have doesn't have a plastic smell. It actually works very well. All right, so we're going to talk about the physical things to help with just, you're running of the mill everyday respiratory health. Number one is deep breaths. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is something I work with all my clients about breathing and breath work. We do not know how to breathe as a society. We tend to breathe very shallow, or we even hold our breath. And so it's really important that you take deep breaths. I always tell my clients, start with your mealtime. Start with taking 3 deep breaths when you sit down at your meal before you eat. So deep breath in, deep breath out. And if you're watching, you can do this with me. Even if you're driving, you can do this. Deep breath in, deep breath out. You can exhale through your nose, through your mouth. There's all different types of breathing techniques out there, but definitely take deep breaths. Often, if you can, start with just before you eat. It slows everything down so your body can really rest and digest and create more digestive enzymes. And it helps us get out of this hamster wheel of fight or flight. We've got to go, we've got to go, we've got to go. And gets us back into the rest and digest. So the physical flows into the emotional and spiritual as well. But again, they're all interconnected. So we want to start with that top of the iceberg and work our way down. It allows us to really receive and then release. So again, before your meals is a wonderful way to start. Also, get out in the cold. The old wives' tale, like, oh, don't get in the cold, you're going to get a cold. That's just a bunch of hogwash. Our lungs need the temperature change. It's not healthy for us to be in 70-degree temperature all the time. We need to get out in the cold. My husband loves to get out first thing in the morning, no matter what the weather is, and just go right outside and do all the animal chores and check on things outside. And that's a wonderful lung exercise because that cold weather is causing more of a constriction in the lungs. And so we're stretching our lungs, we're allowing our lungs to be able to acclimate to the different types of temperatures. That's really wonderful. Exercise is great to actually get to the place where you're having to take deep intentional breaths and to catch up. So even just brisk walking can make a huge difference. There are a lot of herbs that are out there for respiratory health. Again, my friend Nitsa Moshe talks about this. We want to think of our bodies as a tree. Okay, one of my favorite memes is, don't forget to get sunshine and drink a lot of water, because we're basically a plant with complicated emotions. And we are. We function very much like the plants. Obviously, different ways that our body produces energy, but we want to make sure that when we're thinking about herbs to take for respiratory health, we're thinking about the leaves of the tree. So the leaves of the tree are doing the most respiration, and that's what our body is going to be needing if our body is working on respiration or respiratory health. So again, we talked about like eucalyptus, peppermint, tea tree, these leaves that really help our lungs function more optimally. Nasal sprays and nasal rinses are wonderful. We've been using them a lot as a family this last year to combat the aerosols because, you know, it's always something going on in the skies. So you can get some good nasal sprays. There's colloidal silver. I like olive leaf nasal spray. There's another really good one called Orega Sinus, and it has hydrosol of oregano oil. And do that in the morning, do that in the afternoon, do that before you go to bed, just to help clear out some of the junk that we're breathing in throughout the day and promote nasal breathing. The big problem we're seeing in society now is that there's so much mouth breathing. Mouth breathing has become the new epidemic. We're never meant to breathe through our mouth, especially when we sleep. And this is why a lot of people are dealing with sleep apnea, because they can't really get into that restful state. Their body is still in fight or flight all through the night because it's gasping for air. And so as much as you can, get your nasal passages clear and breathe through your nose. What we like to do at home is we use nasal strips because a lot of us have tiny noses and I have a little deviated septum thing. So I wear a nasal strip at night to help open up my nose so I can breathe better. Some people like mouth tape. There's a lot of different brands out there. I'm not a big fan of mouth tape because I feel like I'm being kidnapped or something when I wear mouth tape. But I have friends that swear by it, and it makes a huge difference. Noel asked, how do we learn as a culture to breathe through our mouths? Well, just because we've been clogged. Our nasal passages have gotten smaller and smaller. I've done a lot of work with the Weston A. Price Foundation, and they really talk about how our entire structure, our entire head and neck and facial structure has shrunk over the last 100 to 200 years. Whereas indigenous people that live off the land, they have nice, broad, wide smiles. They've got nice, broad noses. So because of the industrialization of our society, we've shrunk basically. Our bones and our skulls have shrunk. Think about most teenagers have to get their wisdom teeth removed. Think about that spiritually. Their wisdom teeth are being removed. Teeth are connected to wisdom in the spiritual realm when you can make those connections too with the ancient language. And so it's very fascinating that we don't have the space, but we've just become shrunken. And so we have to do all the things to try to open everything back up. But yeah, mouth breathing has just happened because of our physiology. So essential oils are wonderful to use daily. I tell people you should use your essential oils like you would put your clothes on in the morning, like you would take your vitamins, because that olfactory sense is our strongest sense when it comes to discernment. And when we smell the aerosols of essential oils, it gets into our bloodstream almost immediately. So what you can do is take whatever oil you're going to be using. You don't have to go through the whole steam method. You can apply it on different parts of the body, but I like to just rub my hands together and just take deep breaths. So I'm going to open up the sinuses. And doing this every day with the oil of your choice can really help bless our lungs and get those good aerosols in our lungs and in our bloodstream. Not only that, but it's shown to actually elevate the frequency, if you want to call it, the energetic output of the human body. When we apply essential oils, we see that energetic output that our body is releasing goes up. And so that not only shows me that it's a great physical healing tool, but it's also wonderful for emotional and spiritual. We talked about this on this podcast before, but LifeWave patches are amazing. X39 patches. I've known people that have had major respiratory issues that have placed the patch actually on their lung area where they were having trouble breathing and wore it for several days and had a lot of relief there. Again, you can wear it on any area that you're having trouble, but it is recommended, for general health to wear it either on your T1 or just below your belly button. But Noel has these in the store, the Unexpected Cosmology store. They're great to keep even if you just have a pack around for illness, to help give your body that boost and get back to where it needs to be. Okay, so there are some Aleph Tav points that we're going to go over because they are wonderful tools to get our body communicating in the right direction, to get our body lined back up with its original intent, original design. So the first Aleph Tav point I want to talk to you about is Gimel. Gimel. Okay, so Gimel is right here on top of your shoulders, kind of going down, right, kind of where somebody would kind of massage your back there. And most of these Aleph Tav points, you can feel there's like a little bit of an indent where your hands would touch. So Gimel it also means camel, and it has to do with coming and going. So Gimel helps with anything that has to do with respiration, our breath, our cellular respiration. A lot of times, if you notice that you're having some respiratory or breathing issues, you'll notice that you're tight right back here, and vice versa. If you're tight right back here, a lot of times you'll find that you're congested within a day or two. So working on your Gimel right here can make a big difference. And I tell people, it's hard to, in your busy day, to sit and hold a point for 5 minutes. But when you're laying in bed at night and you're, trying to fall asleep, you can lay here and just place your hands on those points to really help your respiratory health. I might have to plug this contraption in, so bear with me, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple quick questions. Since mouth breathing dries out your saliva, do you think it has any effect on dental health? Absolutely, Don. That is a great question. So before I got into holistic healthcare, I was actually a dental hygienist. And one of the big things that we tried to help people with was keeping their mouth moist. And so there's all kinds of products out there to help keep people's mouths moist, because it absolutely causes a lot more influx of bacteria. I mean, our saliva is an amazing tool. It's actually antibacterial. It moisturizes everything. It keeps that bacterial load down. And so when the mouth is dry, you have a lot of horrible dental problems. And we see this a lot of times with cancer patients or people that have undergone chemo and radiation with very dry mouths. So yeah, absolutely. It's important. It's important that we keep our mouths moist and sip on water throughout the day. Pamela asked, are LifeWave patches reusable? So according to the official website, you should not reuse your LifeWave patches. They have about 12 to 24 hours of the little copper power in them. After that, they say it's not good to reuse them, especially because your body attenuates. You want to put a fresh patch on daily. But what I've done with the patches that I've taken off is I put them on one of my kids. You can put them in a house plant. You can put them on a pet, because they do still have a little bit, like they say, about 20% left in them after the prescribed 12 hours that you're supposed to wear it. So yeah, you can reuse it on someone else, but it's not good to reuse it on yourself, because your body's going to it's not going to do anything for your body, because it's going to recognize that symbol. Mary asks, oh, interesting. What about bleeding gums when brushing? So bleeding gums when brushing is a sign of infection. So healthy gums should not bleed. If your gums are bleeding when you brush, then you need to go in and have a good cleaning, or really get in there with floss and oil pulling. I know there's some holistic people that aren't big proponents of floss now, but find a good quality, clean floss, because you really do need to get the gunk out from underneath the gums. All right, 1 second, everybody. Okay. My sound has probably changed a little bit, but just give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me. And we'll move on to emotional health. Mary, I'm sorry, I don't have any experience with deflated lungs, but definitely something to pray into. And if I hear something about it, I will pass that on. Okay, loud and clear. Awesome. We're going to keep moving. So emotional health. What do emotions have to do with our respiratory health? A lot. They're actually that chunk underneath the iceberg that's under the water. Emotions and health are probably more relevant than physical symptoms. So it's really important when we're talking about emotions that we are allowing those emotions to flow through us. Emotions are just energy in motion. And if we don't deal with them, if we don't process them the right way, so taking them in, letting them work through us and giving them back to the Creator. I always say we see this example in the Psalms all the time. Then they're going to get stuck in the body, and it's going to cause dis-ease. It's going to cause congestion. And so emotions are very important when it comes to health. When we're talking about the lung meridian in Chinese medicine, we're talking about specifically grief and shock. The second cycle deals a lot with that deep lung. Our first cycle talks about the Gimel, more the shallow breath, but we're going to talk about those deeper breath, those deeper levels of our Aleph Tav body points, and those have to do with grief and shock. Some other emotions that can contribute to lung health are conceit, intolerance, and communication issues. But specifically, we're going to talk about grief and shock. So again, we talked a little bit about Gimel right here. When we're talking about shock and grief, think about what happens when we experience any type of shock, even just physical shock. I remember being in college in the mountains in northern Pennsylvania, and we jumped in this river in May, this mountain runoff water. It was gorgeous, and it was so cold. It shocked all of our lungs. Like we all lost our breath. The same thing happens when we experience grief or shock. It's like we lose our breath. We can't catch our breath. And we need to give these emotions, give these feelings back to Yah, back to our Creator. We need to let them flow through us. We shouldn't stifle it. We shouldn't swallow it down. We have to release it. Because if not, if we're not handling it properly, that's when panic comes in. That's when the spirit of pan can come in and attach to that emotion and pull us down to where we don't want to be. So emotions are meant to bring us back to the Creator. They're meant to flow through us, and we're meant to cast our cares, cast our emotions on Him because He cares for us. We're not meant to try to deal with them ourselves. Or again, that's when these other spiritual things, entities can come in attached to it, and that's when you have a bigger problem. So we're going to talk about these points that are associated with grief and shock. And think about this when someone is grieving. This is always the most powerful thing to me about learning the Aleph Tav body is that we naturally do it. I mean, think about if you have a headache, what do you naturally do? You naturally touch your head. If you're in pain, overwhelmed, stressed. Well, this point right here, Reish, is the pain control center. So when you put your hand right here, you're putting your bioelectric hand, you're sending energy to this pain control center, and your body, it's helping your body to deal with that pain. So we do it automatically. And I think about when someone is grieving, when I was putting this together the other day, thinking about the different Aleph Tav points, when someone is grieving, we automatically put our hand on their back, right? We kind of come behind and put our hand on their back, or we want to hug them. Well, we are touching these points, the first being Gimel. We talked about that. That has to do with the breath, the shallow, kind of coming and going day to day, got to get stuff done, your, normal breath. The next one is Yod. And Yod, we're kind of just moving right on down the line. Yod is on the inside of the blade. Okay? If you're moving down kind of right in the middle there. And Yod has to do with the hand. It also has to do with aid. It also has to do with being known, to know intimately. Yadar means to know intimately. And when we're putting our hand on someone's back, it's like we're letting them know that we see them, they're known. And that helps with that feeling of grief or shock. And then going further down, we have Tet. So Tet is kind of at the tip of our shoulder blade. If you go right in there on the inside, that's where you find your Tet. For the ladies, I call it the bra strap line. My boys are like, Mom, we don't know what that. I'm like, okay, well, fine. It's easy for us ladies to understand. So you're going right down the line, Gimel, Yod, Tet. Now, when we're talking about Tet, Tet has to do with the snake or the basket or to surround. So who or what are you surrounded by? I think about when I was dealing with that respiratory junk last year, there was a night that it was really hard, that I had that breathing episode, and it was very scary. And I remember the song, This Is How I Fight My Battles, kept playing through my mind as I was laying there. And I had my husband put it on after he did the points on me, because, I love that line in the song where it says, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Who are we surrounded by? Are we being surrounded by the wind and breath of Yah, of our Father? Or are we being surrounded by the lies of the enemy? And so that's really like encoiling us, that Tet. And interestingly enough, it's really hard to reach that point on your own. You really need someone to lay hands on you to work on that point. And so again, who are we surrounding ourselves by? What is our support system? What does our circle look like? Are they pointing us back to Yah? Are they leading us into the right paths? Moving all the way down, we have Samek, and with a lot of these bioweapons, when we're doing coherent restores on people to get these out of the body. We're working on their samek, and that's just the 2 lines that go down into your groin. You're placing, I didn't want to show you the samek. There we go. You're placing your hands on those 2 lines on the groin. Samek has to do with a support, the staff of Torah. The Torah is the word, the Aleph Tav, and it's our Messiah, Yeshua, who holds it all together, who holds us all together. And so in the midst of that, even if we don't have support, we need to remember that what is holding us together, the support, is our Messiah, is the word made flesh. And that is how we live and move and have our being. I like to bring that back to the root word of restoration. Dr. Manzo says this, and I resound with it completely. The root word of restoration is Torah. What's in the middle of restoration? So when we're keeping Torah, when we're keeping the righteous commands of the Elohim, we are walking in that support. Our body is being supported to do what it needs to do. So as far as emotional health and respiratory health, we want to say, what are we holding on to? What kind of grief are you holding on to? Are there things that have grieved you? Are there things that you don't understand that you're still processing, that you haven't fully given back to the Father? And the scripture talks about how godly grief leads us to repentance. So grief isn't always a bad thing. Repentance isn't always just, I did something naughty, I need to be corrected. It's not always about a behavior course correction. What it's about is returning. It's fixing our eyes on our Messiah. It's fixing our eyes on the eyes of the one who made us, and not the wind and the waves. So repentance is really just reconnecting back eye to eye with our Creator to help walk us through whatever we're going through. And so that brings us to spiritual health, how we can look at the whole foundation, the root of this respiratory health, and how we can heal from respiratory illness and strengthen our nefesh in our breath, is spiritual health. And in talking about just the root of things, looking back to, the one and not the wind and the waves. This happened to me a couple weeks ago, and I talked about it on my most recent podcast, A More Excellent Way. But I had a day when I was just really feeling very weary, just battle weary, like, what's the point? This is too hard. And just really also being easily offended. I was really offended with my husband, with like every little thing he was doing. I just kind of felt like, it was against me. And I just took a moment and I asked. I always say, we have the great physician. We need to just go to the great physician and ask, what's the prescription? What do I need? And most of the time when I do this, it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual root. So I just took a minute and I checked in, and I asked, I said, what is the root of this? I don't like feeling like this. This is yuck. What's going on? And I so clearly heard her say, it's because you're not feeling seen, loved, or valued by me, by your Elohim. And Jamie Winship talks about this in his book, Living Fearless. And I love that book. But he says that we are all born with the innate need to feel seen, loved, and valued. And we need to find that in our Creator. We need to find that in our heavenly family above all else, in who we are. We are made in the image of light and love, not flesh and blood. And we get so stuck on the flesh and blood and the physical that we don't realize that that's not the image we're made in. This is the material manifestation of the image of light and love. And so I heard that, and I heard, you're waiting on things that you've been praying about, and it hasn't happened yet. And you think that means I love you any less, I see you any less, I value you any less. I don't. I love you just as much. And that really just wrecked me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that was the root. Because a lot of times when we wait for things, we don't realize that we start to kind of believe these lies because of our experience in this life. We transfer that to our Heavenly Father. And so that really just broke that open for me. I was able to really release what I didn't even have words for, what was being bound up in me. And after that, I just felt free. My whole body felt free. So again, like I said, emotions are energy in motion. We have to let that flow through us, and we need to release it back. And breath is a big part of that. Again, when we're thinking about the most basic top level of breath, Gimel is the burden bearer, right? So when we're carrying this tension, when we're carrying this, I have to do, or what's happening? Why has this not happened yet? The Father really showed me that I do this with my clients, especially because I want to see everyone healed. I have a heart just to see the captives set free in the realm of physical health, and to be able to really live out our calling and be the lights we were made to be. And just to get out of Babylon's system. Babylon's system just, it's grievous to me how many people are stuck in this system of pharmakia. And again, there's no judgment for people that are in that, or, or taking medication, whatever. But I just want to see people walk in wholeness and shalom. And, the Father just spoke to me about this the other day and said the same thing. It's not up to you. You can't do it. You just get to be a part of it. And that was a huge release for me. That was a big burden. Again, the burden bearer. I was able to really relax. I felt my whole body, my whole shoulders relax. And that, again, in turn, opens up our lungs to really breathe. So let's just let that word sink in for all of us, that it is not up to us. We don't have to bear all these burdens. We just get to be a part of it. We just get to be a part of this flow, of this tapestry that's being woven together. And of course, we need to be faithful, and we need to keep the commands, and we need to just walk in love. We need to keep those first two commands well first, and everything else flows out of it. And I realized that is a huge release. When we draw in truth, we release the lies, we cast those cares, we cast them out. So I want to end today with this breathing exercise. And it's a really beautiful way to just connect all this together. And it's also just a great lung exercise. So even if you're not, into all the emotional, spiritual stuff, I'm telling you, it's as important, more important than the physical. It'll really bless your physical nefesh as well. So unless you're driving, then you can do this with me. But close your eyes if you're able. And we're going to take some deep intentional breaths together and just really draw this in. Again, we want to take that input and output, casting our cares, breathing in the truth, releasing the lies, things that we maybe held on to, griefs, shocks, worries. So close your eyes and take a deep breath with me. We talked about that tree analogy earlier. So imagine you're a tree with your roots running deep. Wherever you're at, try to plant your feet. Imagine those roots really spreading out, running deep into the soil. And then we have the trunk of our tree that travels all the way up. And then imagine your arms, your extremities, your head, the top of your head, blooming and opening up just like the leaves of the tree. I'm going to read Psalm 1 here in just a minute. But continue to take those deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Try to draw it in as deep as you possibly can. With your next exhale, relax your face. Relax from the top of your head, the muscles behind your ears. Relax your jaw, all the way down through your neck. Deep breath in. With your next exhale, relax all the way down from the top of your head, through your neck, through your shoulders. Feel that breath just spreading out, releasing, relaxing your shoulders, flowing down into that gimel. With your exhale, just release any tension, any burdens you may be carrying. With your next big exhale, open your heart, open through the center of your body, open through your lungs, and then just drop the shoulders. Imagine those shoulder blades just sliding down, relaxing all the way out through your arms, all the way out through the tips of your fingers. Deep breath in. Let your diaphragm expand nice and wide. And with your exhale, feel it come together and pull up. Again, like the roots and trunk of a tree, you'll feel your diaphragm open. And then exhale, release back up all the way through the top. Deep breath in, feel that breath flow down all the way through your shoulders, all the way down through that gimel, yod, tet, all the way down into the hips, our samek, our staff of Torah. Deep breath in, let the hips open and expand. We have a diaphragm down there as well. And with an exhale, feel that come together, up through the trunk of the tree, and then release back out through the top. One more big deep breath in. Breath flows in from the top of your head all the way down the neck, through the heart, the diaphragm, shoulders, through the lungs, the hips. Let that breath flow all the way down to your legs, the tips of your toes, those roots planted deep. And then with an exhale, release any last little bit of tension you may be carrying. All right, I'm checking to see who's not doing this. Keep those deep breaths going. Nice long inhale. See if you can make it to 8 seconds, nice and slow. And then exhale. Keep breathing. Continue this pattern, releasing what emotions, memories, concerns, any tension you might be carrying. Release that with your exhale. Acknowledge it and release it back to our Creator. I'm going to read Psalm 1 as you continue those deep breaths. I'm going to read the part about the tree from the Paleo Hebrew. The Barak and happy one is a firm tree. He shall be transplanted, rooted and secure by life-giving streams, where shall be gathered together a flourishing watercourse. In due time, a fruitful reward shall be his. His foliage will not wither or fade. No dishonor or blight shall strike. His labors, his industry, his office of governance, his service and sacrifice shall break forth into profit and prosperity. Let's breathe that word in and release. Great work. Continue to do that every day as you're able. Take some time, put on a great worship song. I love Psalm 1 by Left and Right Ministries. They do a beautiful version of Psalm 1. You can listen to whole tones. I love whole tones music. If you're a client of mine and you've gotten your inner voice song, that's your own personal frequency song, listen to that for 3 to 5 minutes every day and do your good intentional breath work. I've seen tremendous healing from breath work. I've been able to heal a hernia just in breath work. After my 4th pregnancy, I had a hernia, and literally just doing breath work like this completely healed everything, because hernias are just a misdistribution of pressure in our body. So again, that pressure is causing dis-ease and we need to release it. And the way we release it is with breath. So get out in nature if you can, listen to the birds chirping and the chickens and all the other things going on, and apply oils if you can. Apply those oils, breathe deep. You can anoint yourself on your head, on any of those Aleph Tav points we talked about. But remember, we are salt and light, but the breath is what gives us life. And so when we take in that breath, when we return it back to the Creator, when we're able to receive and release and really slow down, we can find true rest for our souls and find our way back to the ancient path. So I hope this blessed you today. Thanks for joining me. Shalom, shalom. I'll check the comments to see if there's any questions I may have missed. But I think that's it. When was the last time you were breathing so out of breath like PE in high school? Yeah, that's great, Don. We all need more PE in our lives. Maybe not the rope climb or the scooters. I don't know if y'all ever did scooters. We'd have to scoot around and we would always smash our fingers into each other in the wall. But yeah, good exercise will help your lungs. And just remember, all of these things work together to bring us back to our original intent, original design. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. You can contact me at ancientpathswellness.org, and I'll post comments or links to some of the things that I mentioned earlier in the chat below. So thank you for joining me today. Shalom.